Let's play with the 108 ScrawlrBox.
Hey Scrawlers, I'm Kat from ScrawlrBox. Welcome back to another video, and in today's video we're going to get into some of those tips and tricks as featured in this zine. Get a little creative with it. Let's get into it.
A quick little reminder of what was inside the 108 box: Colorista markers, Derwent pencils, a white jelly roll, a Pigma micron and a recycled paint on pad. And as usual, the Scrawlrs zine, and this is where you'll find some tips and tricks from us on how to use the supplies, as well as some insight and some handy stuff from the featured artists too. Okay, first things first, confession time. I know nothing about manga, so we're going to use an app to mangaize my face. Some definitely not suitable for work versions came up, and this dark version of me. And then I just kept going, and then it came up with a business cat version, which made me laugh. And then finally I picked one I could use. A bit more of a comic-y manga-y type style. Let's get into it. And as usual, I will be using the paper inside this month's box. It's a nice and thick recycled paper, so minimal bleed through should occur. We will go back to that at the end, of course, to see if that's true. Starting off with a sketch, and I'm going to use a ruler to find the middle. I really find this helps a lot to keep me in check proportion wise. Also going to keep my reference handy for this. I don't know why I'm so nervous. As I said before, I've never attempted a manga style before, so the urge to make things expressive was quite hard. I'm usually quite loose and fast with my drawing and my sketches, and this one I found I had to keep a bit more in control, which was a fun challenge to take. Time to colour, and I reckon I'll start with the background first, ease my way in. As my reference image uses quite a lot of blues and yellows, I think I'll stick to that, and then I'll use the pink for the background. I'm going to use lots of circles, but I'm not worried about keeping the tone even, so I'll alternate the pressure. This gives a more textural finish, like speckles of light. That's the effect I'm going for. Of course, to keep the colour even, keep your pressure consistent and circle small, which is what I'll be doing here to fill in these bits of colour. So this is just the first layer of alcohol marker, and this entire process is about building layers and layers of these colours. Blending tip, touch nibs for a transfer of that colour so you can blend onto the page easier. Use a lighter colour to blend it out more on the page. We're going to let that all dry before we go on to our second layer, which shouldn't take too long. Onto our second layer, and on this one we're going to focus on building up tones and shadows. I'm going to stick to the reference to see where the darker bits need building, and once again let that dry for a minute or so before going on to the third layer, which I'll let dry again before moving on to my micron pen. And it's nice and thin tip so we can really get some of those tiny details in. Oh, I should actually show you the process so far, and at this point I was in a very much I need to trust this process stage. It's also a good idea to completely wait for all your layers to dry before going in with the fine liner, just to avoid any bleeding and smudging. Adding in the lighter blue to see if it makes a bit of a difference to the shadows. You can't really see it, so I'll stick to the darker tone. Now onto the hair. I'm going to be working in sections, adding in lots of lines to build up darker tone in the right areas, and also more alcohol marker in there. And as the marker blends into the wet liner, you get that added depth, which I thought was quite nice. Lots and lots of layers in lots and lots of stages. Patience was key here. As I gradually built up more of the darker areas, I got a bit more confident with how this was going to turn out. And that's something I have heard before, is adding in more darks creates more contrast, which actually really helps build lots of depth to the picture, so just keep going. Okay, time for the jelly roll. I've scribbled it down first as you just saw, just to get that ink flowing. And we're going to add white and then smudge it, and I'm going to use my finger to do that, and this will create more of a transparent layer of white to build on. Again, sticking to the reference photo so those light areas go in the right places. I'm going to use the same smudgy technique for the eyes as well. Build up those whites gradually. And if you let the white dry a little bit, you can go back over with the micron. So if you happen to go over your black outlines and little details, you can just draw back over it. Okay, almost done. I just want to add a border to give it a bit more of a comic manga vibe. I wanted the border to be quite thick, so I won't make you watch the entire process, but yes, it did take a while with this thin nib. Patience was something I told myself I had to learn at the beginning of the year, so this was a good test of it. Finishing off by darkening the background a little bit, keeping it darker surrounding the face, and using the brush nib to flick out bits of ink, add in some more flecks. I wanted to enhance that speckledy light effect I made. And she's done. A manga me! And look, minimal bleed through. This paper really handled those layers like a boss.
And there we have it, the 108 challenge done. A few tips and tricks thrown in there. And as I've already confessed, manga isn't really my thing, but that was definitely a challenge worth taking on. Hope you found this video useful, and until next time, keep scrolling.
Thank you for watching. Who else was this their first time doing manga? Give a little purple heart emoji in the comments so I know we're in the same boat. Anyway, that's it from me. Bye!